Traci. It's so wonderful that you wanted to be here with me today. We have had some conversations about mindfulness and intuitive eating, and we've had some conversations about our relationships with food and body, and I'm very excited that you wanted to be here with me today so that we could share our knowledge with the people that are listening. I don't know if you want to just introduce yourself to the people that might not know you.
Sure, thanks Miriam. I'm really excited to be here today talking about our food and body as well. So I'm a researcher and health and wellness educator at Harvard School of Public Health. And my focus is primarily in working with communities that have high rates of obesity. And so I basically go into these communities and I translate the science that we do at the School of Public Health to most effectively help them not only manage their weight, but really the goal is to reduce their disease risk and increase their overall health and wellness and happiness in life. So I finished my postdoc just a couple of weeks ago, which is very exciting.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And now I'm also starting a business called Happier and Healthier. So I want to bring what I've learned at the School of Public Health out to the public in general. And I'm really excited to be talking to you today and kind of starting on that journey.
We're going to post a link to Traci's website down below the video, so you can check that out afterwards. For the people that don't know who I am, my name is... Oh, hi, Kat! That's wonderful.
Going to say hi.
Yeah. Oh, he's cute. My name is Miriam Veksebo. I'm a specialist in treating binge eating disorder and compulsive overeating. I have a bachelor in nutrition and health and a master in the process of learning and change. And I've done my own research, my own scientific research in the field for the last 5 years, while also treating clients in my clinic. So Traci, I think your work is very, very interesting. I heard a live workshop that you did. I heard it online. And it was just filled, packed with very interesting tidbits of information and some of your own research, and I know that you're really into mindful eating, and I don't know, can you do you want to explain some of that? Do you want to dive into that subject a bit?
Sure. So I like to start with talking about what is our environment right now that we live in. I mean, there's an obesity epidemic and it's really impacting us globally.
Yeah.
In the United States, we have 70% of the population is either overweight or obese.
Yeah.
And so when you've got a problem that's affecting that much of society, it's really not an individual problem. It's really an issue of our environment and society. And so while we have this issue, and it is a bigger problem, I like to focus on this idea that there are things that as individuals we can do to kind of combat the factors that impact us. And a lot of it has to do with our mind. So if we can change our mindset first, then a lot of those lifestyle factors that will improve our health and wellness will come along with that. And so just a couple months ago, I taught a mindful eating course, and I think that's really a big key in terms of helping people improve their overall health and wellness, is changing the way that they think about eating.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's actually also one of the key components that I use when treating clients. It's changing the mindset, and also actually realizing that it's not your fault. Because when you have binge eating disorder or suffer from compulsive overeating or have difficulty managing your weight, you have a lot of self-blame and a lot of shame that goes along with that. And I find that heartbreaking. But on top of that, it's also detrimental for your health and for actually getting where you want to be. Because when you keep all this shame-based conversation within you and all this negative self-talk, then it's impossible to have energy in order to change and in order to actually understand, okay, this isn't my fault. I have some rewiring to do. I've been taught some other things. And I might have to also get to know some other coping strategies, but other from that, there's nothing wrong with me. It's not me. It's the tool that I use, or it's my mindset, or it's the things that I've been taught.
Yeah, that really resonates with me too. Like, we have so much judgment, and sometimes we're the worst critic of ourselves, even more than any other person. We can really get down on ourselves and judge ourselves for the way that we're living and the choices we're making. One thing that I really think is valuable in kind of changing that frame of mind is the idea of cultivating curiosity within ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of touched on that as well. And the way that I do that, I learned this from a meditation teacher of mine not too long ago, and I found it very valuable. And it's to work on first noticing when you have those judgmental thoughts that come into the mind, which having a meditation practice can help you just become more aware of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've got these judgmental thoughts that are going on, and we might not even realize that that's happening to us all the time. But once you get to the point that you're aware and you're like, oh, look, there was that judgmental thought, she encouraged you to think, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
What's coming up for me? Why am I having that thought? And dig into it a little bit deeper. And if you come at it from that point of non-judgment, where you understand that different things have affected you in your life to cause you to think that way, you can look deeper and see, is there any fear or shame that's hiding underneath that? That's the reason why that's coming up for me. And again, to have a lot of compassion for yourself.
That's so on point. I use narrative therapy a lot in my sessions, and what I usually try and help people to do is to zoom in on their inner conversation. And what I notice most of the time is that, first of all, a lot of people don't know. They're not conscious about them having an inner dialogue. And also, because they don't know that they have an inner dialogue, then these thoughts just roll over them, and they believe them. They believe, oh, I am a bad person because I ate cake, or it's right for me to be ashamed because I weigh 20, 30, 10, 50 pounds more than the perfect BMI would say. And when you kind of zoom in on that inner conversation, you also get the possibility to actually stand up. Not to go to war, but to be more like, as you said, curious. Why am I having this thought? But also, is this thought true? Is it actually true? Do I have to believe it? And if I believe it, where will that take me? And is that a place I want to go? Do I really want to lead a life where I'm a bad person because I ate cake? Maybe not. Maybe that's not really. There's also this inner voice. I don't know if you've encountered that. I think you have with your clients and with your wonderful work. But this sort of waiting position that a lot of people put themselves in, that they go, well, I really want to find the love of my life, or I really want children, or I really want to go and bathe in the ocean, or wear a bikini, or eat cake whenever I want, but I can't do that, not until I've lost this amount of weight. And so they put themselves in this waiting position instead of just going for what they want.
Right. Instead of living life right now. Yeah, I encounter that a lot, and I think, again, it's how society affects us and causes us to think in that way. But, what I think is really just beautiful about being alive is you can decide to start today. It might have been great to start 30 years ago or whenever to really start living and enjoying life as you are right now. Maybe that would have been, you can have these thoughts that, oh, I wish I had done that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Just like the idea of planting a tree. The best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. And so I really encourage people just to start appreciating who they are right now and recognizing we only get a short time really on this earth. And maybe that's a little bit morbid, but I think when you accept that, you see the beauty in it too, and the gift that it is to be alive every day. And we're never going to reach a state of perfection. So why not just like live life right now and embrace it as fully as we can?
I love that. I love that. Can you please repeat that part about the tree, because I thought that was really on point.
So the tree analogy is the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So we can wish that we had done things differently in the past, or maybe we have judgmental thoughts about that. But really, the best time to start is today, and to start loving yourself and loving your relationship to food and your body and just to life in general.
I think that's wonderfully on point, and it also sounds very simplistic and easy to do, but it's not always that easy. And I know there are a lot of people out there really wanting to love their body and have a loving and balanced relationship with food and eating, and also weight. But it can be very, very hard for some people, not for all people, but for some people there's that innate fear of, well, if I don't have this, then what do I have? I've worked with so many clients that when they've overcome overeating, sometimes it takes them aback. They go like, well, Miriam, I still overeat. And I'll be like, oh, so how does your overeating look? What happens when you overeat? Well, for instance, yesterday I ate a bag of chips. And that's not overeating. That's not compulsive overeating. That's not binge overeating. That's just a normal eating a bag of chips. But it's because it's so integrated in the way that person views themselves, then that can be a truth. And I think my point is that we have to consciously reevaluate the ways that we look at ourselves, the way that we understand ourselves, and the thoughts that we want to believe in. And that actually takes us back to your point of being curious and non-judgmental and accepting, well, I might be scared. And once this overeating is gone, life might feel sort of empty because it filled so much of my days, and all the thoughts of food filled so much of my days, and now they simply don't. So now I have all this time and all this energy. What should I do with it? Oh no, the prospect is daunting. But that really resonates with me. That when we are able to get over these anxieties around food, that we just feel that life opens up a lot more, and we're able to get a lot more joy out of it. But the bag of chips analogy made me think of two different things, and the first one is this idea of being satisfied. When I teach mindful eating, one of the very first things that we do is we break eating up into several different parts. And so we talk about 8 different kinds of hunger, and some of them are nose hunger. So that would be like when a plate of bacon goes by you and you're like, oh, I've really definitely experienced that.
Another one might be eye hunger. You see the dessert tray and you're like, oh, that looks really good. I might be full, but I want some of that dessert. And so the part of hunger that I think is really important to talk about and to think about is the heart hunger. And so that's the need to feel satisfied when we're eating. And while a plant-based diet is the best diet studies have shown for us to eat in terms of our overall health and wellness, I think it's really important to take the heart into consideration and what the heart wants to. And the heart doesn't always want an exactly plant-based diet.
No.
Sometimes it craves that bacon or that dessert tray. And one thing that's personally helped me really develop a much healthier relationship with food is to acknowledge my heart hunger as a legitimate part of me. And that I don't have a adverse relationship with my heart hunger. I actually love it and appreciate it, and I feed it sometimes. And so sometimes I don't eat the perfect plant-based diet all the time, but when I do decide to have that bacon or I do decide to have that dessert, I try to eat it slowly and mindfully and really get as much joy and satisfaction out of that I can. Because again, harkening back to this is one beautiful life that we get to live, I'm going to really enjoy the bacon while I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, I love that quote. this is a beautiful life that we're given. I'm really going to enjoy the bacon while I'm here. I love that quote. Oh my God. That's wonderful. No, but actually it's such a very important point for me and in my, like in the work that I do, because I try to take people from a control-based relationship with food to an intuitive relationship with food. And that involves a completely different relationship with food and with your body and with your body's signals and with your mind and yourself in general. There's a whole level of acceptance there and a whole level of curiosity that I try. And one of the things that I notice is that the only rule I have long term is focus on enjoyment, focus on pleasure. And whenever I say that, people go like, oh no, that means that I'm going to eat all the cake in the world or all the chips in the world. If I don't have these rules, then I will have no means of controlling myself, and then the weight will just shoot up. I'll feel much worse about myself, and everything that I'm scared of will happen. And I totally understand that fear. But if you look at it realistically, then eating all the cake in the world is not pleasurable.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy that. At a certain point, you'll pay people to not eat the cake, to not have to eat the cake.
Adaptation.
Yeah. And when you realign yourself with your body's signals and relearn how to hear them and to respect them and live a life according to your body's signals, then you'll actually notice that your body doesn't necessarily crave or want chips all the time or cake all the time or Coke or whatever all the time. What it actually craves is most of the time it wants balance. So sometimes, like, it's not weird to crave broccoli, for instance. I crave broccoli sometimes. 6 years ago, that would have been unthinkable for me. That would not, craving broccoli, that's in La La Land, that's not going to happen. And I know a lot of my clients have the same notion. Miriam, craving vegetables, I don't know what you're talking about. The only thing I crave is chocolate or ice cream or cake or whatever. And the reason that they crave it is one of the reasons that they crave it is that it's simply not allowed. And that also touches on what you said about the heart hunger, that if you don't accept your heart hunger and you disintegrate from that part of you, then that will be a thing that you crave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it actually brings on those cravings more, and they're actually more intense, and you feel like you need more in order to be satisfied. Because you also have that background track of the judgment going on while you're indulging in these foods, and so that it kind of leads to this cycle of just eating more and more of those unhealthy foods. Yeah. But exactly what you're saying, when you enjoy it and get a lot of satisfaction when you're craving those kinds of foods, you find, so sometimes, just staying on the bacon example, I can eat a half a piece of bacon and find, I'm very satisfied, and I'm actually craving more of those fruits and vegetables at this point now. And I think, we probably will get into this a little bit more later, that tuning into our body signals is very important in learning to recognize what we're craving more and seeing what kind of foods actually make us happy. Yeah. So I think it's really important to have a meditation practice, but part of that meditation practice, I think, is important to do the body scan, and that's just increasing our awareness of different parts of our body. And one thing that I've learned and I've found very remarkable since I've started doing mindful eating more and more is when I tune into my stomach signals. Mm-hmm. There's times where I would have thought that I was hungry, but now that I'm more tuned into myself, I'm realizing, maybe I'm just actually a little stressed out right now, or I'm feeling like I want to eat something because my stomach maybe hurts a little bit from what I ate earlier. Yeah. And so I'm realizing, there's a lot of times where I would have thought, I'm hungry, I should eat, when really I'm realizing that I wasn't actually hungry, and it's some other signal that's happening in my body. Yeah. So the more the body scans and tune in, the better I'm able to tell what is it that my body needs and wants right now.
And you've also, I get the notion that you've practiced that a lot Because
Yeah.
the way you talk about it is, it seems as if you're very in tune with your body and your body signals, and that it's very clear to you what's hunger and what's not. And I think it's important to underline that you practice this a lot. It's not just something that you do from one day till the other, then you're an expert. So if the listeners out there, if you're sitting out there and wanting to do this, then being confused in the beginning and not maybe knowing, is this hunger or isn't this hunger, and what is this I'm feeling, I don't know, then that's completely normal and a part of the normal process, and you're going in the right direction.
It takes a long time to start to tune into those feelings and sensations. But again, going back to what you were saying earlier, and in relation to this, I don't think we need to judge ourselves. And you were saying, have fun with it. Really, you want to be living a life with more joy. Yeah. And so for me, I do have a regular meditation practice, but it took time to build up, and I thought about what are ways that I can do this that I find really enjoyable and work well for me. So things like going to a sangha or attending events where they have meditations. Yeah. I personally enjoy meditating in groups a little bit more than individually. And another thing that I've also found is for my meditation practice, 45 minutes a day sitting in one spot and doing it all at once doesn't personally work very well for me. No. I know other people that does work very well for, so everybody has to figure out what works for them individually. But for me personally, I like finding triggers in my life that remind me to meditate and become present. And for me, one of the most helpful triggers is anytime I'm transitioning from one activity to the next, I'll take just 1 to 3 minutes to sit with myself, pay attention and focus on my breath, do a short body scan, notice my thoughts, my feelings, and any bodily sensations, and then I move on. And so it only takes a few minutes, but I do it regularly throughout the day, so it really
it compounds.
A continual practice.
Yeah. I love that advice, because it's very simple, and I know that a lot of people are busy, but we can all take 2 or 3 minutes once in a while to do this. And you actually, to me, it almost sounds as if you're also speaking about, like, it's not just about listening to your body, but it's also about checking in with yourself. And and that's one of the things that I've realized early on, that the way out of an eating disorder, like binge eating disorder, overeating, anorexia, bulimia, I don't care what disorder it is, the way out of that is the exact same as the way home to yourself.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Developing a deep relationship with yourself.
Yeah. There was this study about addiction, that our old understanding of addiction was completely wrong. And what was actually causing addiction was not belonging, that loss of connection.
Yes.
I don't know. Have you seen that? Have you read that?
I've seen studies looking at why do people stay addicted to certain things, and when they have more meaning and joy in their life, the need for that addictive substance, whether it be food or drug, whatever, really goes away. And so if you start to cultivate a life of meaning and joy, and I think community is a really important part. Having strong relationships in our life is one of the most key parts of that. That we just don't feel the need to soothe ourselves, because that's really what we're doing when we're addicted to something. It's to calm ourselves and soothe ourselves.
Yeah, and compensate for maybe base needs that we don't recognize or haven't been taught how to meet, base fears that we feel too overwhelming to face, and all of these things. But actually what struck me was because the way we talk about it is often connections towards others. But what I found, yes, that's incredibly important, but what's most important is our connection with ourselves.
Yes, yeah. I think we have to have a base connection with ourselves, and then from there, we're actually able to form more, deeper and more intimate relationships with others, because we are truly ourselves. And I think, that comes back to the idea of non-judgment again. We are who we are, and if we can accept that and move forward from there, and really follow our hearts and our passions in life, then the connections that we'll make are going to be with the people who love and support the person who we really truly are, and not some sort of facade or who we think we should be to please others.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I love this conversation. I always love talking to you, but I also like just here we're free flowing, and I love it. And we've already touched on some very interesting topics. The meditations that you talk about, doing that when you shift focus for just 2 or 3 minutes, and doing it every day, that's a wonderful way to tap into yourself. We've touched on the relationship with ourselves. We've touched on meditation in general and connection in general as a very important topic to recovery. We've touched on enjoyment and just leading a joy-based life and having a joy-based relationship with food and body. And we've touched on the different ways that hunger can be. Like, for example, when you said heart hunger, nose hunger. You mentioned some others too. Eye hunger was one of them also. And I just, that's wonderful.
I wanted to mention something about the different kinds of hunger and the heart hunger again.
Yeah.
So we talked about heart hunger being associated with satisfaction, and you feel this need to be satisfied, so you're craving maybe these less healthy foods.
Yeah.
And I think what's tied into that is actually kind of a greater need to feel satisfied in our lives. Okay. And so that dessert tray can come out and you can be completely full. And by full, it's really a physical sensation that we're feeling in our body of the stomach being stretched. Yeah. But you can be completely full and still feel unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And so satisfaction is really a different animal, and we can feel satisfied, for example, by eating a variety of foods can help increase our satisfaction, and certain foods may be particularly satisfying to us, maybe certain crave foods. We all have different ones, but I think we can all relate to this idea of having cravings. And so I do think we can indulge a bit and really enjoy some of these foods that we tend to crave. But another thing that I encourage people to do and to think about when they consider their heart hunger is that you can actually feed the heart in other ways in addition to food. And there's really healthy ways to do that. And it'll be different for other people, but some examples that I like to mention are things like taking a warm bath, going for a walk, spending time with friends, playing with animals. Basically anything that brings us into the present moment is a great way to satisfy the heart. And if you work on cultivating those in your life and making sure that you have several things throughout your day that give you a lot of satisfaction, you'll find that the heart hunger, that need to feed the heart with these quote-unquote unhealthy foods, dulls a bit because you already feel so satisfied and joyful in your life.
I completely second that. One of the things I also find very interesting is that when you say, I've had a lot of clients go, I simply can't say no to myself. I simply can't say no to myself when faced with this pumpkin pie or this delicious dessert or this ice cream. I simply can't, even though I know that I really shouldn't. I really shouldn't, but I simply can't say no. And when we dive into their lives, matter of fact is that most of the time they spent a lot of their life saying no to themselves and saying no to what their heart truly desires, saying no to authentic relationships, saying no to other people, always over-engaging, always being positive, always trying to reflect this is who I should be. This is who I really should be. And that leads to an externally based life. And when you lead an externally based life, most of the time you're just saying no to yourself. So when presented with this cake or pumpkin pie or ice cream or whatever it might be, then it is impossible to say no. And I think that it would almost be unfair to say no at that point, because when are you going to say yes to yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely agree, and it's scary. It's so brave to be able to say yes to what your heart truly wants and to go for that. And you people who do this, I mean, if you've been saying yes your whole life to things that didn't really resonate with you, and you finally start to say yes, you'll get resistance from those people in your life that you're satisfying their needs.
Yeah.
And so it is brave to say yes to yourself and to say no to others. And it's scary, and it takes a lot of vulnerability and being authentic with yourself.
Absolutely.
But in the end, again, when you do start saying yes to yourself more, you may lose some friends, you may lose some family members, people who are close to you in your life, but you'll gain so much more in the end from that, and you'll really be living authentically with yourself.
Exactly. You're gaining much more than you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it is definitely, it can be very, very frightening and very scary and uncomfortable to have that level of vulnerability in your life, but that doesn't mean that it's actually dangerous.
Right.
And we have to remember that you can feel fear without it actually being dangerous. And when you go over to that cupboard that you're so afraid of opening, you actually open the door, then you'll most of the time you'll be like, oh, was it just that? Really?
Right.
Was it just, have I been afraid of that for so long?
Yes.
Oh my, I wish I opened that cupboard decades ago.
It can feel like coming up for a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the first time in your whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah,
it's amazing how, we're talking about food and like what we're eating, and you maybe think that, that's such a simple, small part of my life, but really it is part of the bigger picture, and
it is.
These things are all interconnected.
Yeah, it is, because eating disorders are often just, if not all the time, I'm being careful here, I really feel it's all the time, but I'm going to say often, is often just a symptom. It's a symptom of some underlying things, and those underlying things, they're not about food. They're about your relationship with yourself. They're about your relationship with the world and how you interact with yourself, what's accepted and what's not accepted, and what you've been taught growing up, what your morals are, and all of these things. It's so much more than just eating, because we're not machines. We're not machines. We're people. We're human, and we have so many levels, and it's wonderful. I love it. Yeah, we all, every single one of us on this planet has our struggles. Like, that is part of life. And I think a lot of people do soothe themselves, and they help themselves feel better by using food. And I think it's important to thank yourself for that. Like, that is you taking care of yourself. Exactly.
And you're doing the best that you can in the life that you've been given and the circumstances that you have.
Yeah. At
the same time, I think it's good to recognize that you are using food in that way, and to consider, again, isn't that interesting? How might I be able to change things a little bit where I'm still soothing myself, I'm still giving myself lots of great self-care, where I don't feel that I need to indulge in these foods as much anymore to self-soothe. Exactly,
yeah. And again, you're pointing out curiosity and non-judgment is key to understanding and recognizing what you're doing. And also, I love that you say to be thankful. To be thankful for that strategy, because if you had another strategy, you'd use that. But you don't. You have that. And you've been using that probably for many years. And that's been your way of surviving. So, you should, You're
taking care of yourself. And that's, that's a beautiful, you can love yourself for that.
Exactly.
And how you take care of yourself. Yeah. So I wanted to mention a couple of things, just a little bit more pertain to eating in general and what we can do thinking about the environment that we live in. You were mentioning, like, opening the cupboard, and that could be a larger metaphor for life. Yeah. But it also directly relates to food as well. And so, and this idea of trying to say no all the time, we do kind of have a limited reserve of willpower. Yeah. And if you sat next to a tray of just delicious desserts that smell so good going by all the time, it's going to be hard to continue to say no to that forever. But if you think about the environment that you live in and how can you change your environment to be exposed to less of those foods, and to make it easier for you to say yes to the types of foods that you do want to be eating, that can go a long way in helping you make the choices that you want to make. So things like doing meal prep and having the fruits and vegetables easy maybe out on the counter, ready to go, packing your lunch, really making time. It's really important for you to decide that you want to make time in your life for this, and to make food and eating healthy a priority. And so having less of the junk food right there visible. Sometimes it's not always possible. It can be difficult, for example, at work if people are bringing things in. And for me, I allow those to be exceptions. I see that food, it's right there in my face. I know it's hard for me to say no to, so I let myself indulge in those times. But in the areas of my life that I have control over, I try to do my best to mitigate the unhealthy options right in my face, and to do the most that I can to keep those healthier options, and surround myself with the kinds of food that I want to be eating. And tied in with that is, and I touched on this just a little bit, is making yourself a priority and making healthy living a priority for you. So often we can make everyone else in our lives be more important than us. We'll continually just work to help make everyone else happy and satisfied. But really, if you make yourself a priority and your healthy eating and living a priority, you're actually going to be able to give so much more to others in your life, because you'll be coming from a place of abundance and not of a place of scarcity.
You actually touch on something very important, because you just said this about making it a priority to eat healthy. Mm-hmm. And that might be very good advice for the broad general population, but if you suffer from binge eating disorder or compulsive overeating, that might not be the best way for you, because that would tap into an externally driven motivation. To eat healthy for the sake of health is an external. So that's actually also why I hang on to that enjoyment, and just enjoy the food and listen to your body, because your body actually wants to be healthy. It wants to. It signals you. If you lie in bed all day, then your body will not feel good. I'm not talking about when you're sick or anything, but like if you just spent days lying in bed and not going out and using the day and taking the day and working towards your heart hunger and saying yes to yourself, then your body will feel it will feel bad. It will be at an uneasy state, and that's a signal. It will get tired. You'll have back pain. That will be a signal. If you go for a walk, then that will feel enjoyable to your body. If you eat vegetables, that will feel enjoyable to your body. And eating a cake once in a while, that is fine for your body as well. But your body really doesn't signal you to eat cake all the time. That's the psychological background making you want all this cake and want all these chips and needing that sugar or needing that. And I just think it's a very important distinction, because we have a lot of focus on being healthy. But and I think that's wonderful. I think health is very important, but we need to focus on what health is. And is health merely eating the right amount of calories, eating the right amount of vegetables, eating the right amount of fat and proteins, and so on, so on, so on? I don't think so. I think health comes as a result, as a byproduct of actually tuning into yourself and living an enjoyable life. And I think that's very important if you suffer from binge eating disorder or compulsive overeating, because you need to move away from the control-based relationship with food and health and body, because that's actually a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I do think that's kind of the first step, is noticing how you feel when you eat these different kinds of foods.
Yeah.
And then from there, you'll want to have more of those foods in your life. And some of those suggestions that I was making would almost come about naturally, because you find that that's really what makes you the most joyful.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wanted to mention study. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify even more. So it's not about going like, okay, so we're going to throw everything that's quote unquote unhealthy out of our house. It's more about what does my body signal me to eat? Okay, it wants vegetables that I'll buy. It comes by itself. It's not about choosing, because in the broad general it might be, but for binge eating disorder and compulsive overeating, it's really not about willpower or control. It's more about the reconnection to yourself. Yeah. Sorry, you're talking about a study.
Yeah, so just one final point on what you're saying, to go back to the idea of the body scan and tuning in with our bodies, because I think that the more people do that, the more that they'll notice that these quote-unquote healthy foods are actually what brings them the most joy, what makes them the happiest in life. So again, it's not a control thing. No. It is that they are truly enjoying living this lifestyle.
Exactly. And even though that might verbally be a small difference, in a manner of lifestyle, that's a huge difference.
Yes.
It's a huge difference if you're running to run, or if you're eating to be healthy, or you're running because you enjoy that, or you're taking a brisk walk because you like the feeling in your body, or you're eating that vegetable because you really enjoy it. It's about the process and not about the end result, because the end result is not merely health. I think that would be too small of a goal. Health is a byproduct of the larger goal, which is reconnecting to yourself and truly living life on your own premises. And
absolutely.
Yeah. I get all fired up when I talk about this, because I think it's so important.
So key and important. So, I mean, it's about true happiness is what it comes down to. Yeah, there's some studies that show that when people exercise for health, they're much less likely to maintain it over time than if they find an exercise that they find particularly enjoyable. So I really encourage people to try out a few different things and see what really resonates with them, and go for what makes them happy.
Exactly.
The other study that I wanted to mention was, it just came out last week through the Harvard School of Public Health, and it was a large nutrition study looking at people and the different kinds of diets that they ate, and they compared two groups. One was vegans and vegetarians, and then the other group ate meat. And there was some differences between the two groups. So they looked, within the people that ate meat, they looked at people who didn't eat a lot of meat, but primarily ate the whole grains, fruits, and vegetables.
Okay.
And then they also looked at the vegans and vegetarians. So they didn't eat any meat, but they did find that that particular group was eating more processed carbohydrates. And when you look at overall health risk, the group that had a more balanced diet, they would eat a little bit of everything, but primarily the whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, they had a much lower disease risk in the end than the group that completely tried to cut out meat. But it's almost like that their heart hunger was still craving something, so that they compensated by eating more of the processed carbohydrates. So
it's about balance.
I encourage people to eat, the balance again. Eat what they're really craving and what they find that they are interested in and want, but to keep in mind the idea of the moderation and finding the love that they have for the fruits, vegetables, and whole grains.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah, that even scientifically points towards balance and also I've read some scientific papers pointing towards that one diet is not a one size fits all. We're all different, and some people thrive not eating meat, and some people don't, and some people need more vegetables than grain, and other people need more grain than vegetables, and so on, so on, so on. And that also concurs with the amount of calories. Some might need 2,000 calories a day. Some might need 2,500 or 3,000 or 1,500, so there's a broad variety. And instead of just and people might feel that I'm wrong, and I'm absolutely okay with that. But my opinion is that there's a whole lot of us giving away our power and giving away our relationship with our body signal, and giving it to all these dietitians and experts. And I don't have anything against dietitians, because they serve a very important role. And sometimes you do need that. But from my point of view, I would love for there to be a larger recognition of our own body's knowledge and wisdom. Like a diet is a very poor substitute for your body's knowledge and your body's wisdom. And that's what I find in this time and era, that we do a lot. We tend to focus outwards instead of inwards, and that's a huge loss.
All of these studies are an average of the whole. Yeah. So any individual is going to be different, and so I think you're exactly right. I think it's good to be aware and to increase our awareness on what these studies are finding, but to also take that with a grain of salt and really tune in with what works for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Another aspect that really can increase our disease risk is stress. Yeah. And so if you're working very hard to change your diet to be what someone else is telling you is healthy, but you're really stressed out about it, that stress that you're feeling may in the end be causing more detrimental health effects than you would get if you modified your diet so that you're feeling satisfied and less stressed. So stress is a really important component, as is satisfaction.
That is a very, very important point. I guess that also applies to if you've been told all your life that, oh, you can't eat that cake, you can't eat that cake, you can't eat that cake, and you're thinking that, and then you condition yourself to have this sense of shame whenever you eat cake. Then when you sit down, you have a lot of stress, because that's a stress response. You're not going to sit down and enjoy that cake. Yeah, You're going to sit down and be stressed and stressful about it. And that's, I think it's interesting that it might be that you sit down, eat that cake, and the cake is actually less unhealthy than the stress that you put on yourself by thinking these thoughts and allowing these emotions. Yeah.
Right. And you're not allowing yourself to be satisfied from what you're eating, and so you're going to just continue to crave it. Yeah. Because you've never really actually got to enjoy it. So.
Wow, we covered a lot of turf here. That was we might. I think maybe we should do another talk at a later time. But for now, I just really want to say thank you, Traci, for being here and for sharing your knowledge and your point of view. I always find it interesting to talk with you, and I always find that you have some really valuable points and some really valuable messages, not just for me, but for people out there and for people listening right now. And I don't know, I'm thinking that a lot of people out there would want to get in contact with you. So I'll get your contact information and where they can find you and your website and all that details, and I'll post it below here. And and if you're sitting out there and you're wanting to hear more, you can press subscribe. If you liked this video and liked our messages, you can give it a like, and please leave a comment below also if you have some questions or remarks or comments. I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Miriam. I would say my biggest takeaway from this conversation with you, which was so lovely, thank you so much, was finding our joy in life and being as authentic with ourselves as we can, and the rest will happen over time.
Yeah, it will. Absolutely.
That's a beautiful one.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time and attention. I will see you at another time in another video.
Thank you. Bye-bye.